Hey everybody, Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity, and as you may already know, I love turning you on to groups and artists who you may not otherwise hear about because I think they can be referred to as golden little secret gems that, who knows, they may become bigger artists in the future, and you can always say you knew them back when. And this is one of those kind of bands that may very well be that kind of band. It's a family band. They call themselves the Silver Snails, and they're primarily out of Italy, but they also have a base in Portland, Oregon, and they have such a unique sound, such a very well produced, very well written sound. When you listen to this album, called Speed of Light, you will not hear something that sounds like a poorly produced garage band, but instead a very well produced, very intricate musical plethora of songs there. So I encourage you to check it out, buy it, and support good artists who are making the effort, making the investment, and making the sacrifice to provide good music for us. But back to the Silver Snails, the co-founder of this group is Lucas Ward, and the band is made up of him, his wife, and their kids, and they do such an amazing job on this. I strongly recommend you give them a good listen and purchase of their music. And while you're listening to this interview, would you mind going ahead and hitting like and subscribe? I'm not going to charge you for it, but it sure helps us out a lot. It's that whole algorithm thing you keep hearing about. So it helps us out, and it just takes the little effort of taking your finger and pushing right on that. So as always, I appreciate you tuning in to Boomerocity, and please tell your friends and family about us. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care. Hello, Lucas.
Hello, Randy. Nice
Uh,
background.
I
Very
thought you
nice.
might like that.
Yeah.
Just,
Wow. You're on my good side already.
all right. Well, I'll do anything to make that happen. Almost anything. So
Good to know.
I said almost, almost. So
You did. You did.
where are you clicking in from, Lucas?
I'm here in beautiful Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay.
So I'm based in Italy. So I went to rewinding a bit. I grew up mostly in Portland. I did high school here. Then I ended up living a lot of places after school. I worked in Asia, and along the way, I met my wife, who's from Italy. So when
Oh,
we started a family, it became important for her to be close to her parents. So
gotcha.
I'm basically living in exile, but I do come, but it's a gilded cage. And I come back to Portland, a couple times a year at least to see my folks and families.
Gotcha. What part of Italy do you live in?
We're in the province of Romagna, which is on the Adriatic side, like, where Venice is, not too far, a couple hours from there. So it's about in the middle of it'd be like, if you think of Italy as a boot, it'd be kind of like just under the calf on the east side.
Okay.
That's where we are. And it's rolling hills, it's wine country. We're about half an hour from the beach. The beach is really nice where we are, although it's not like visually spectacular like it is in some places in Italy. Italy has amazing beaches in the south, for instance. Where we are, it's a very friendly beach. There's lots of services, so people use it a lot, and it's good for swimming and all that. In
Gotcha.
fact, even our videos, if you look at a couple of our videos, we filmed on the beach. We like transported our grand piano and did it on the
Yeah.
beach, lighting and dry ice and all that.
Very cool. I there's a guy I follow on a daily religious reading actually, and his my best friend is a friend of his, and he's one that introduced me to his writings and such. And he's based, I think, outside of Milan, so I don't know where that is
Ah,
exactly to where you are, but he's American as well. And like you,
okay.
his wife wanted to be near her family, and so
Yeah.
I don't know, 12, 14 years ago, I think he made that move out there. But anyway, it seems like a lot of people want to move to Italy these days. So who knows? You might see me there sometime.
Oh, come on over. The water's fine.
In fact, I just thought of this. I forget how many years ago I just re-released the audio or released the audio of it. I did the last interview that Dan Peake of America did before he passed away.
Hmm.
And so recently, a few months ago, I edited the audio because that's all I did back then. I would record and then transcribe, and I put it out there to a slideshow. And but when I first did the article, I was transcribing it, and then our mutual friend that introduced me to Dan emailed me and let me know that Dan had died that very morning that I was beginning to transcribe the
Oh
interview.
my God. So you're one of the last people to talk to him.
I was the last person to
The
interview
last
him.
person.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Was
And
there any
so
clue?
no, just
Wow.
his literal. I think from what I understand, I mean, he died in his sleep. From what I understand, and his heart just gave out on him. So there was some hereditary type heart issues in the family, but he just passed that quickly, and there was a reason why I was telling you that, and now I completely forgot. So that
Was it,
happens
it
when
had
you
something to
get
do with
old,
Italy? Something to do with Italy?
probably, but I can't remember now.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
happens when you're
It's okay.
about to turn 66 in a couple weeks. So there we go. It'll hit me after we hang up, but uh,
No problem.
I just can't believe what I was going somewhere with that, and it was related. I'm just not an old man rambling. Well, I am an old man rambling, but there was a relation there, and I can't remember now what it was. But so you have been well. First of all, tell viewers about silver snails. What what's behind your tell viewers what silver snails is, what when you guys created it, why that name, things like that.
Sure. Okay. So the Silver Snails is an independent music project, recording project, live project, roughly pop rock genre, although we're very adventurous. It's intended from the outset to be global, and that's partly driven by the fact that we're multilingual in-house between Italy and the US, but we also play with other languages because we feel that with the internet, it's basically, it's making the world smaller, so it makes sense to address a global audience.
Mm-hmm.
Our local audiences are most concentrated in the US West Coast and then Italy, just because these are the places that we've sort of played music, live shows and done publicity and have community and all these things. Anyway, it used to be that music projects were bands. You'd have like four guys or five guys, five gals or whatever, and they all be sort of equity owners. Maybe there'd be some division of roles, but that's like what I was raised on. Talk about, as a Gen Xer, children of the baby boom. And by the way, I love the music. I mean, Beatles is my number one musical influence as an example, thanks to my boomer parents. And uh, now I got snagged.
I'm
Um,
rubbing off on you there, Lucas. I'm sorry.
oh, geez, man, brain freeze. Um, the what was the original question was about the silver snails. Yeah. So, oh, and bands. Okay. So I saw a video recently by Rick Beato where he pointed out that of the top 100 musical acts today, only like two were bands. And so we think of like the Who and Led Zeppelin and Beatles. It's always like, it's almost like a little warrior tribe or band or something, band of brothers and sisters in some cases, um, like Destiny's Child as an example. But nobody hardly does that anymore. And this is what I found out. So I walked into the whole thing thinking I'll find other people that want to be part of this project. But the way it's structured now, of course, is that you almost always have a singer-songwriter, possibly a duo, and then if they need to do something like record or play, then they just hire contractors. So the entire industry, even at the highest level, is basically run on contractors with a few sort of front people or people that write and own the music. I mean, think of Taylor Swift, for instance. Does she have a
Right.
band? No, she probably has some regular contractors she goes to. And so
Yeah.
I was confused about that in the beginning. I was working with contractors as well, which you kind of have to, thinking that they would jump at the chance to be like permanent members of my thing. And that never happened. And that was just my naivete. But I did at the outset invite my wife to join so that the Silver Snails would sort of have it would be a priority thing in the family as opposed to a personal hobby.
Right.
And that did a lot to really sort of broaden it and deepen it. My wife added a ton in terms of like the visual part of it. So producing all of our videos, which we've done on location in Italy. She's really produced and organized that stuff. And she sings and, moral support and the rest of it. And of course, that brings in our kids. So what we really are, I think of it as a front family, meaning you have mama bear, daddy bear, up to three baby bears that can all sing lead. And usually what we'll do is if there's like three of us in a concert, it might be me and my wife and one of my kids, let's say, we've done this multiple times. Then it'll be for any given song, one of us will sing lead and the other two will sing backup. So it is kind of like the Beatles, except it's in-house. It's more like the, Johnny Cash family band or whatever. And so I think of it as a family band, but it doesn't mean that we have um, you know, full band like on tap. We kind of do, but they're friends and we pay them
Right.
when we need them. So yeah, so the mission. So my, I hope I'm not talking too much, Randy,
Nope.
but I'm
Go
almost done
right on.
with this thread about what's it all about. There's sort of a why. Like I think of it kind of as an entrepreneurial startup as well. I think creators and entrepreneurs are pretty close. I mean,
They are.
they have similar features also in kind of their business model. And I have always loved music, and I've always been deep into music since I was a kid. And I, like many people, rebelled against kind of what I would hear on the radio. It's like, what is this? And channel after channel, it just sounded terrible, all of it. After
Mm-hmm.
having been, nursed on Crosby, Stills and Nash and Pink Floyd and Donovan and the
Mm-hmm.
Beatles and like Ravi Shankar and Miles Davis and on and on and on, right? And Yes, Rush. Um, it's just if you just access the kind of big music from kind of the '90s on, it just sounds terrible, in my opinion. And I've thought a lot about why that might be, and I don't think it's all personal taste. I think there's been a lot of technological shortcuts taken. So now, like a lot of things are looped, and now they're talking about just having AI like actually do it itself. So that's been going on for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and the music labels don't have good taste. All they know is what already is popular is already sold, and a lot of times they'll just try to like rehash something like, okay, Amy Winehouse is dead. Can we find, you know, a chick that can sing with the deep, rough voice and kind of maybe we'll just have her do their eyes like her, like that's the way they think,
Yeah.
and people will like it. So my idea was that in the age of the internet, we do have the power as individual artists and creators to deliver music to an audience in theory of almost any scale, and that the big music is so bad that maybe there's a room for some independent alternative, because alternative of course is still label music at the end of the day, a lot of it, and some of it is okay. I
Yeah.
listen to some of it, but So I was targeting that kind of wide open blue sky kind of internet creator opportunity that was opened up by digital music distribution, thinking that I could also do the marketing well as a someone with a business background. I was naive about that as well. It's much harder than it looks. Just to, let's say, get to a point where you know someone like Howard, who knows someone like Randy, like years and years and years. If you were just starting out, I would never find you,
Hmm.
because I would never find Howard. Anyway, and I got lucky. Like, it could have easily been that I never would have even known what publicity was, like, because I wouldn't have talked to people that knew about it. And I don't even know at this point what the return on it is, but I just know that, this is part of the process.
Yeah.
So, so I thought that there was a room for more of an artisanal alternative to big music, and that in order for it to be serious, it had to be very well produced. Because if I go get a mixtape or something, or I go to an indie anything, and I just kind of listen to a bunch of stuff, like most of it doesn't pass my quality filter. Starting with the vocals, frequently the vocals are just not up to snuff. Because
Yeah.
singing is just much harder than most people realize, because it seems so intuitive. But good singing, it always stops me in my tracks. And even though there are a lot of good singers, it still is relatively scarce if you're like trying to discover new music
Yeah.
at the kind of the grassroots level, in my opinion. And of course, it takes resources too. Maybe it
Hmm.
takes resources to hire someone in the studio who knows about tuning the vocals. Um, so I was prepared to also resource it, and am still doing that. And that's kind of a tension that we have, although we're both believers. Anyway, so the idea is this: the idea is that music as a product is like a software that can kind of elevate your mood, and even like maybe like your consciousness a little bit. Going back to the Beatles originally,
Hmm.
where
Hmm.
they're encoding certain messages in the music, or even Bach. To Bach, every note and every chord was part of the spiritual language.
Hmm.
And he was communing with God as he wrote thousands and thousands and thousands, well, thousands of pages of beautiful music. So the idea is that if you really wanted to, you could use music as a force for good in terms of opening people's hearts and inspiring and uplifting them. There's the whole thing that artists do is that they provide examples for people, so there's the family doing it together or whatever
Hmm.
it is, or you can send messages about peace, or other values, like a lot of our Instagram feed is about like gardening, uh, you know, beautiful places, travel, stuff like that. So, um, oh, the other thing is it's not just big music that, in my opinion, is like almost unlistenable. There's also the whole question of social media. So everybody has a feed and everybody's on the feed, and what's in that feed? Like,
Hmm.
I'm also trying to provide some counterpoint to, you know, what I see as like a very oppressive kind of content. Oppressive in
Yeah.
terms of like Drek, you know.
Yeah.
And so we're
Yeah.
we're we're warriors of taste out to save the world from Drek, in our minds, in our
Yep.
minds.
Yep.
So that was kind of a long explanation, but I wanted to go all the way to like the why. And there's been some real wins on that front in terms of people that have taken our art and tried it and said, yeah, this
Hmm.
really works, or this is my thing now, or I gave it to my grandmother on her deathbed and she listened to it every day, or stuff that, God, the anecdotes are incredible. It's always, I think of them because you kind of need proof of concept. Like, here we are 13 years in, and I have no idea whether we're getting anywhere. Again, we are in the sense that I'm talking to you, but I mean,
Right.
in terms of having a scalable fan base, and it really, it's just hard to say. I mean, I know the personal interactions. I have the personal anecdotes. I have the publicity, and I have a certain number of streams and views. But where do we sit within the panorama of 5 million independent, song creators on Spotify, let's say. I don't know if that's the
Yeah,
right number, but I know that 1 million. I was told that 1 million new songs drop every week
I
on
don't doubt it.
Spotify.
And I think
It's
every
a
one of those publicists send me something about them.
Oh, yeah.
So
So
it
it's
gets,
miraculous. It's a
it,
miracle
it
that we're
is
talking.
it is because it is a numbers game, and yet when you get into things like social media and the algorithm and the numbers that we're fed, I have to tell you, Lucas, I don't know that I believe them because
Hmm.
I look at inconsistencies between what I see on YouTube and what I see on my website. Just it just stands to reason that there is a disconnect between what I'm seeing between the two. And I think, honestly, I think certain platforms are going, you know, and see what feeds, and
Hmm.
what is there. Yet I know of somebody who is highly successful in social media that they it's him and his golden retriever, and he lives a very, I mean, and it's lighthearted, it's fun, I get a big kick out of it, I personally enjoy it. But then I turn around and look at my numbers and I'm going, why am I even doing this? Because the numbers are such a huge, there's, I mean, orders of magnitude difference between my numbers and his, and yet we both have
Right.
a place in this world. So number
Yeah.
one, what I sense from you is the same of what I'm doing. We do it for the love of it, first of all, but you
Yeah.
want it to be productive. You want it to be productive, however you define that, and successful by however you define. I'm in my 17th year doing this, and I've done over 600 interviews, and my first one was when I was 14. It was Colonel Parker, Elvis Presley's manager. So
Wow.
yeah, at least that's what I say. I bumped into him and asked him four questions. The last one was, "Can I go backstage to meet Elvis?" And he said no, and turned around and walked away. But, but hey, I had to ask. But the point is yeah, we sometimes it sounds like we're a grain of sand on the beach
Yeah.
with all these creators of different kinds, but I believe there's a purpose. I believe there's a reason. I do believe there's people that hear us. And if you're not doing it for the love of it, then you shouldn't be doing it to begin with. And
Great point.
ultimately, that ultimate scorecard of traffic or money or however you want it to be scored, will manifest itself in some way, shape, or form. And that's the reason why I do what I do.
Gotcha.
It's not attention or anything like personal attention for me personally. I love talking to people like you and turning people on
Hmm.
to people like you, and it all comes out well. But the what from the standpoint of making the album, now there'd been quite a bit of time between this
Yeah.
new album and the other. What went into the why so long, number one. Number
Yeah.
two, what was different about putting this album together as compared to the previous one?
Yeah. It was quite different. Um, and a lot of it was because of the evolution of the project. And um, the first album I demoed at home, I was recovering from an illness. I had a nervous breakdown,
Mhm.
and I had very little energy. But I thought I was dying, and I wanted to demo this album as like it was the last thing I did. And so I did this whole thing. And then I recorded in Italy. I found pros, and that took a couple years. But then we did a bunch of like publicity and marketing, showcase concerts, and made videos for the first album and all this. And so by the time I got through, you know, I was not only naive but super ambitious, and I just feel like because there's so much content out there, that the only thing that matters if you make content is that it's high quality. because that's the only thing that would catch anybody's attention or sort of invite them to try it again or put it on their playlist or whatever if it's really, really, really good. So it's much better than to have 10 diamonds than 100 rocks. And so I felt that there wasn't a hurry, and I wanted to make like just a landmark, monumental record as a follow-up. That was, and I decided that the team that I put together to do it in Italy was not bringing us close to the market in any way because they didn't have any contact with it, and that I needed to go to the US. So a couple years were spent sort of like disengaging, going to the US. I found a person ultimately named Dylan McGarrett, who has a record label, independent label in the US called Badman Records, and he's also a producer. So he knows both the marketing and the production. And we finished the record that I had started in Italy over, and I was going back and forth between sort of 2016 to like 2019, doing it in stages. I wanted it to, I want it to just be like as good as like the best like classic rock records in terms of like writing and production, or like Flaming Lips quality, let's say, the middle period. And so in some cases that meant like kind of elaborate arrangements. Some of these songs had maybe 120 tracks or something, and always like live drums and bass, which is like it's a whole day just to do 3 songs the way we did it, in multiple takes, um, and then just and lots of vocals, so lots of and a lot of things that I was attempting to do, I was kind of learning as I went, so that if I had to reproduce it or do it a second time, it would have been much faster. And then I also essentially ran completely out of money and had to divert all power to my shields, meaning working to save the to feed the family. So that led to a couple of years, and then so I had to find resources then to put it out. So it was a combination of the switch in location, setting the bar like almost too high, running out of money, having to start again from scratch. Those were all things, but also the fact that, and this is the way, as I look back, yeah, of course I would have preferred not to have taken that long. But now that the record is out, it seems like all that matters is how does it sound?
Mm-hmm.
And again, the bar, a lot of people still, and historically, they would have one good song and then they would put a bunch of filler on it. No, here's your record.
Yeah.
I mean, have you noticed that? How
Yeah.
I feel like so many good songs that I come across algorithmically, and then I listen to other stuff by the artist, and I'm like, oh, come on, like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not at the level. Like to me, that's anathema. But of course, it's not easy to fill a record to create 10 jewels, even in a couple of years, and that's
Yeah.
why,
You don't want to have 10 songs that sound the same, but then you don't want 10 songs that don't even relate to each other, you
yeah,
know, within a boundary of X. You also don't want it to be a boundary of A,
yeah.
it's hard to find that sweet spot. It really is.
And when you're talking about multi-track recording, it's like if you invest 100 hours, you get this result. If you invest 200 hours, you get that result. Like there is a limit, like you don't want to overcook it, but if you really take the time to put in all the little harmonies,
Mm-hmm.
and then and really think about what the song needs or what the problems with it are. I mean, one of the songs on the record, we did the drums 3 times. It didn't work. We went back to the algorithmic drums that I had on the demo. It's the only time I've ever done that. It We just couldn't get the right feel on it. Um, I took myself off of lead vocals for one of the songs and I gave it to my daughter, the last one, and that worked really well. But it took a little bit more time. I don't. If you've had a chance to listen to any of it, I'd love to get your reaction.
Yeah, to me, what I liked about it, there was, first of all, you could tell there was a lot of time spent on it.
Hmm.
Too many times, even with big name bands or artists, you can tell when they're just mailing it in, and they've
Yeah,
maybe done it so many times. I mean, I'd be the first to say I'm not a musician, but I'd be the first to say I'd love to be able to play their mistakes. And by the way,
Yeah.
what I'm going to shift gears right in the middle of my answer to you. What I had forgotten at the beginning of this chat was tied to Dan Peake and America. He had introduced, or there was a band in Italy that he was trying to help out when he died. The name of the band was Laredo, and they were
Laredo.
kind of a country folk deal. And I hear from one of the guys about once or twice a year from with email. He contacted me after Dan passed, but that was, I don't know if they're even still together, but that was the name of the group, Laredo, and I
Okay, I'll
can't
check
even
it out.
remember where in Italy. Just in Italy. And I know that's like
Okay.
saying where in the US, right? You must be nearby,
Well,
So,
I'm glad you closed the loop on Laredo.
yeah. Well, I'm glad I did it during this call and not in the middle of the night and it woke me up. So
This up in the middle of the
that happens to me all the time. It's like, oh crap, now I think of it. So, but the good news would have been middle of the night for, well, no, you're in the States right now. I was going to say middle of the night for me might be mid morning for you. So in Italy, but anyway, no, I felt like there was enough variety, like I was just explaining, within a logical spectrum of possible variety. It's not like going from classical to blues to gospel to something and trying to be all things all people, but yet there was a nice breadth of
Hmm.
variety there, so I didn't
Great.
feel like I was listening to the same song, 10
Oh,
takes of
okay.
the same song. You know what I mean?
Oh, cool.
So
Sure. Yeah.
the bottom line is I really felt like, for an indie artist, pretty pretty amazing what you did with that, because
Hmm.
um, you don't see that very often unless somebody's over synthing it with keys, and over programming it, which can happen way too much.
Hmm.
And I've even seen it with certain blues records, which typically would be more of a live sound, that kind of thing. But you do get those guys that try to overproduce something. I don't think your
Hmm.
album seemed overproduced. I felt like it was very intricate. There
Hmm.
was
Intricate.
um, the intention was applied to the songs and not just seeing. I can listen to some songs and it sounds like maybe a songwriter has learned a new trick and they overplayed it, and
Uh,
you hear too much of the same thing, you know what I mean? And so my hat's off to you for pulling that off and doing it, very well at that.
Thank
And
you.
and the other thing is something that I pick up on that maybe a lot of people don't. I'm kind of a business geek too. I'm not a musician. I've never been in the industry
Hmm.
before Boomerocity. I guess Boomerocity kind of makes me in the industry now, ever
Yeah.
since I founded it. But I like to see the business side of things, and what you explained to me may be not so interesting to some people, but when you get music and business together with me, that's kind of like my porn, It just
Yeah.
and so I like finding out what's going on behind the scenes, what's the nuts and bolts of things, and
Right.
with your business background and all that, you articulated that very well, and it comes across with how you were presenting the album via Howard. You could pick up on that. There was a method that you were doing
Hmm.
without making it overly programmy sounding,
Oh, cool.
and so that's what I picked up from
Hmm.
listening to the album, if that makes sense. I hope I
Yeah.
articulated it well there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But which song on
Nice
the
to be heard.
album would you point to as a good calling card for the Silver Snails?
Calling card. So you don't know the group, and I just want to give you one song.
Not necessarily your favorite song, but a
Right, but
song that would be a good calling card for the group.
I
Someone
mean,
said when
I,
I asked
I
that
think,
question to the guy from another group, he said, "You mean the gateway drug?" I said, "Yeah, that'll work."
yeah, the
So,
gateway drug. I mean, off of this album, a possible answer is Video Killed the Radio Star, because you already know the song. So you
yeah,
might like the way that it's done. But let's set
correct.
that to the side. Um, we chose, okay, so when we released it online, we did 4 focus tracks, one each month. So June, July, August, September. And in September, we also dropped the full album. So the first focus track is really the answer to that question. We chose Evanescence. And Evanescence is different from a lot of the other songs. For one thing, it doesn't have a direct, like, lyrical narrative. It has sort of oblique, imagery. And that was on purpose. I was
Right.
actually experimenting with that style, and I had a whole different process for that song versus the other ones. Most of the time, I'm kind of in what I think of as the John Lennon school of songwriting, where it's like if you can say it with 3 words, that's better than four, you know,
Right.
and like hard hitting repetition and like he's very creative with format, but he likes the power of simplicity.
Right.
And so Evanescence though is different in that way. And the other thing is that it's kind of a Flaming Lips homage in terms of the types of sounds that we were using, the way we were using the electric guitar. Um, and for whatever reason, different people that I've asked have sort of given me really good feedback on it. So I'm leading with it. Um, now, then there was, so we did that one, did Video Killed the Radio Star. The third one I did is called Faro d'Amore. And it's very almost representative of the Silver Snails in the sense that you have English verses and an Italian chorus, and you have the Mama Bear and the Daddy Bear singing together on it, and it's a very earnest declaration of our allegiance to agape and sort of love as a supreme principle in the fine tradition of George Harrison and others
Mm-hmm.
from the Boomer generation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, Love is My Queen would be an alternate title for that.
Oh,
Love is my queen, love is my queen, and it don't mean a thing without her. And that's of course a Duke Ellington reference. That's like pre-Boomer,
yeah.
because he had a song, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Don't mean a
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, if you gun to my head, Evanescence. In a practical situation, you want to turn a friend onto it, maybe show them the Radio Star video.
Yeah.
And if they have maybe some affinity for the kind of the Italian or the international flavor, then maybe Faro d'Amore. Faro d'Amore is, in my opinion, a very straight ahead kind of rocking song.
Yeah.
If the person likes, high gain guitar and like harder edge rock, then you say, that was the fourth focus track we did.
Ah, very cool.
My personal favorite is called A Flagrant Display of Magic. It's the second track. And it's kind of, I was playing with more of a Bon Iver type style there, where I have like 12-part harmonies from low to high. So it was an achievement for me in terms of doing this choral vocal framework all
Yeah. Yeah.
myself. And I love the way it came out. And it's very Lennon-esque lyrics, very like
Mm-hmm.
direct, hard hitting, I think. And then the last song is the one where my daughter sings lead. And that was a hard song to finish, but there's a whole story behind it in terms of how it was inspired and all of the steps. Who was Galen? So it has a lot of meaning for me, but I also think it's very beautiful.
Cool.
Per Elisa, I wrote for my wife. Again, this is 12 years. All my best stuff concentrated into one little album. It's like, yeah, there's more than one highlight there.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, Per Elisa is really an ode to my wife, Elisa. But the other thing is, who was my first artist. Well, Beatles, I guess, when I was a kid, probably, or Bob Dylan, my dad would sing to me. But when I started studying music, I ran into Beethoven right away. And the first one I learned was Für Elise, which just means per Elisa in German. Per Elisa is the Italian version of Für Elise, meaning Beethoven's woman's name was Elisa. So his muse had the same name as my muse.
There you go.
So I was like, here's my Für Elise, but it's called Per Elisa. And musically, I took inspiration from Elton John, classic Elton John, like Someone Saved My Life Tonight.
Right. Yeah.
Um, Shout out to the Boomers.
Hey, I remember when that first album came out, I was at the store and bought it day one. So,
What a song.
yeah,
What a
yeah,
beautiful song. And I know there's a story there. Like a lot of really good songs, there was a
yeah,
reason for it. It has a message, or it's telling an important story, I think, in this case, about him wanting to kill himself
yeah.
and
Or
being
even
stopped
tried.
by somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But heavy, heavy song. Well, that whole album was just, you know, gosh, 50
up there.
years ago, and
Yeah,
I still love pulling songs from
yeah,
that album. It was very, very good. What's been
yeah.
the
They
feedback? What's been the feedback for you on the album? You know, it's been out a little bit now. So what's the what are you hearing?
well, I don't hear negative feedback. Like, well, I mean, you get trolls on social media, but I've learned that they're kind of like bugs in your garden, right? If you don't have them, there's no organic virality. So when
Right.
you start seeing trolls, it's actually a sign that you're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
One guy said, "Chill on the drugs, bruh," under my video, and
As he's probably draining a six pack in a basement somewhere. So
so um, it's always really gratifying when people tell me what if they have a favorite song or two, because then I know that they actually really did connect with that song. Because sometimes
right,
people say,
right.
"Yeah, I listened to it," but did they listen to the whole thing, or at what level did they engage with it? Like the stuff that you told me about it being intricate but not overproduced. I mean, that suggests to me that you listened deeply,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate that. So various beta users, if you will, and people around me will come to me and say, I really like you say, it gives me energy, or I like, you know, Faro d'amore, or I like this one, or I like that one. So that's what's most interesting to me, is just when you sort of put out this kind of smorgasbord to see which ones people gravitate first and who gravitates to what. Um, I actually have a very close friend named Evan, and so the name Evanescence is a play on his name, Essence of Evan, and he loved it, and I was so psyched. I mean, there was no, I mean, the Galen guy I don't have contact with anymore. It was a moment in time in my life where he was a guy that I knew who got divorced and had a new relationship, and it got me meditating about the energy that's sort of bound up in a relationship, like what happens when those bonds break.
Yeah.
Does it dissipate? So that's kind of the premise of Galen's song. It's about being about divorce. But in the case of Evan, um, he's with me, and he sort of encouraged me, I think, to put that one first. Uh, there's, these tastemakers that I'm talking to, people like you. I mean, they're giving me a lot of incredible um, feedback. I would say the thing that I hear most commonly is that they appreciate the production. So
Yeah.
it apparently the production that we did is differentiating it from the normal stuff that is going through that channel.
I would agree.
Um, and I love hearing that too, because I mean, that's when you say something is high production, it's another way of saying it's good quality. And
Yep.
that was what I was aiming for. And of course, I invested so much time, more time than money. And so I'm getting confirmation that it actually comes out on the other side. I mean, you would think that like software and AI would make production sort of, you know, not relevant anymore. But apparently that's not the case. And we're using mostly old school methods. It's mostly analog instruments.
Hmm.
We use obviously digital tones and a
Right.
little bit of software, but you know, talking about like Captain Fantastic or whatever, 50 years ago, they really hit like some peak deliciousness in terms of like
Hmm.
those some of those tube mics and the amps. Like
Hmm.
it didn't get better. They layered new stuff on. There was a lot of like
Right. Right.
crazy synth and drum stuff, but um, yeah. So why move on if you're not getting better? Like why go further down the technology curve
Right.
unless you need to for budget reasons? But again, to me, even the best artists that I follow rarely have more than 10 songs that I would put on a playlist, like in their whole career.
Yeah.
Like I could name one or two where like I actually want to listen to multiple, like more than three albums, but most of them it's like two really good albums, one really good album, maybe three.
Yep. Yep.
Rolling Stones have a long career and a lot of really great music, but most of them don't. And so I would rather put more energy into fewer things and present those, with vigor.
Kind of
I'm
like what
looking
Guns
forward
N'
to doing it
Roses
again.
did, having
Mm,
the whole gap between the albums and such. So they,
mm,
put a lot of thought, put a lot of time. They might have hit a point of diminishing returns on the last one, but
mm.
you just
Yeah.
you never know until you try. But so what's next for Silver Snails? Where do you go from here with the album out?
Yeah.
What are you going to do next?
Well, we've been so active this year. I've got a couple of shows to play in Portland, and then I'll go back to Italy. So I have a band in Portland, and we played one show at the beginning of the month for album release party, and then we've got a couple at the end of the month, and then we've got another band in Italy. So definitely want to do some more live shows over there. And I have some material in reserve that I'm thinking of setting up, maybe doing an EP next year.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's basically to keep the machine warm while I record some new stuff because that's what I
smart.
really want to do. That's what I'm really
Yeah,
feeling a tug of want to really focus on that now. Now that Speed of Light is finally out there,
yeah.
you know, in the world.
So, well, when you do that, if you're going through Howard, have him give me a shout, and we'll set up one of these and talk, and we'll catch up first on how this one winds up going and doing for you in the meantime, and then we'll just kind of keep these conversations going. How does that sound?
That'd be wonderful, Randy. Really
So,
appreciate it.
well, man, thanks for taking the time to sit with me, and especially with visiting your folks and all that. The family's important, and I'm glad to hear that you're there to visit with them, especially since they're baby boomers. It makes me feel a little old that I'm probably the
Yeah,
same age as your parents, but yeah.
they're more towards like 80, 85. So
Oh, really?
they're,
Okay.
yeah, on that end.
Yeah. My dad is 89. He just turned 89 a couple months ago. I'm his
Oh, okay.
caregiver. He has Alzheimer's, and so
Oh my God.
I live next door to him. But hey, I get to have some incredible time with him, and
Uh-huh.
that's what's cool. So anyway, I just when I'm not taking care of him, I'm working on this stuff, and
Hmm.
getting things cranked out and trying to figure out this algorithm stuff,
Uh-huh.
to see if I can go to the next level. But it's
Yeah.
a labor of love, as you well know, So,
Yeah, I mean, thank God for people like you, you know?
well, it's all fun. I mean, if it wasn't for this technology, you'd have to rely on, Cream Magazine or Rolling Stone or somebody. But
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a thousand of us out there, and you get a good chunk of those, and you got your name out there pretty well then,
Hmm.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah,
well,
that's what we're
good.
doing.
Well, listen, Lucas, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you again down the road.
All right, Randy.
All
You
right,
as well.
take care.
Okay.
All right,
Bye-bye.
thanks. Bye-bye.
This has been another fun-filled episode of Boomerocity with your host and producer, Randy Patterson. The theme song is Roll the Dice and is recorded and used by permission from Quentin Hope. Quentin is spelled Quinten, and Hope is Hope. And you can find out more about Quentin at quentinhope.com. Post-production is done by Cardinal Sins Productions. The Boomerocity name, logo, and content is copyright protected. Segments may only be used with written permission by Boomerocity and/or its assignees. Inquiries should be directed to input@boomerocity.com. Copyright 2025.